This year, 27 AD, multiple disasters strike the Roman Empire. Herod Antipas makes matters much more difficult for himself and causes a war to be declared on him, and the Red Eyebrows rebels finally surrender. Welcome to the Yearly Histories, where we will highlight the major events that take place in the Common Era, year by year. Last year, we saw Emperor Tiberius leaving for his retirement on the island of Caprae and leaving Sejanus in control of Rome. The Romans crushing an uprising of Thracian tribesmen, and the Red Eyebrows rebels being in seriously bad condition. This year, in the Roman Empire, a catastrophic disaster strikes onlookers of the gladiatorial games in Fidenae. The amphitheater in which these games take place was not built with a solid foundation to frame the wooden superstructure with beams of sufficient strength. The dazzling spectacle attracts 20 to 50,000 people as spectators, although the numbers are disputed. Tacitus reports, quote, "The building was densely crowded, then came a violent shock, as it fell inwards or spread outwards, precipitating and burying an immense multitude which was intently gazing on the show or standing round. Those who were crushed to death in the first moment of the accident had at least under such dreadful circumstances the advantage of escaping torture. More to be pitied were they who with limbs torn from them still retained life, while they recognized their wives and children by seeing them during the day and by hearing in the night their screams and groans. Soon, all the neighbors in their excitement at the report were bewailing brothers, kinsmen, or parents." Unquote. This is the largest disaster of its kind in history, and in the aftermath, the man behind the construction of this amphitheater, known only as Attilius, is banished. But the bad luck for the Romans does not stop there. A large fire breaks out on the Celian Hill, one of the famous 7 hills of Rome. Emperor Tiberius responds by sending out messages which declare for the distribution of funds in proportion to the losses sustained, which the populace applauds. Tiberius also declares that he wishes his retirement not to be disturbed. Sejanus receives the message with glee, knowing he no longer has to conceal his machinations against Agrippina the Elder and her sons. Sejanus doesn't waste his time and resumes the persecution of his opponents. He continues his demonization of Agrippina the Elder by serving her associates with corruption trials, accusing them of treason. Agrippina the Elder, the widow of Germanicus and opponent to Sejanus, is seeing herself increasingly isolated without Emperor Tiberius present. This year, she is placed under house arrest in her suburban villa outside Herculaneum. Herod Antipas, the Tetrarch of Galilee and Perea, has gotten himself into quite the situation. A woman named Herodias has caught his eye on his recent trip to Rome to meet with Sejanus. Now there are several problems with this. First being that Herodias is his niece. Second is that she is already married to one of his half-brothers, Herod Philip. And third is that Herod Antipas is a married man himself. Despite these glaring issues, he pushes forward and divorces his wife to marry Herodias, who returns his affection. He marries her, breaching Jewish scriptural law which forbids a man from marrying his brother's wife while said brother is still alive. Herod Antipas is viewed as a quite capable leader, so these actions are out of character. Herod Antipas's current wife, Phasaelis, is a Nabatean princess, and once she hears about his intentions, she flees to her father's court. The insult perpetrated by pushing her aside does not go unnoticed by her father, King Aretas IV Philopatris of Nabatea, seeing it as a breach of their agreement and grounds for a declaration of war. Emperor Tiberius normally would not want to see a conflict between 2 client states of Rome, but Herod Antipas's mother was a friend of members of the imperial family, so he holds more sway, and Tiberius allows the divorce to go through. Thus, a war begins between Herod Antipas and the kingdom of Nabatea. Nabatea is a kingdom composed of mainly Bedouin Arab people who have settled in the region and was established in the 3rd century BC. They control many of the trade routes in the region and have accumulated a sufficient amount of wealth. They are believed to have been the people responsible for building the magnificent Petra in the early years after their establishment. This year in China, Emperor Guangwu of Han continues to make consolidations in the newly restored Han dynasty. He orders a search for the former heirs of the previous iteration of the Han dynasty before Wang Mong's usurpation to re-establish the hierarchy which was present under their rule. This takes place as rebels still control the former capital. The extremely weary Red Eyebrows rebels leave their city of Chang'an once again this year, after venturing out for much-needed supplies the previous year and being utterly decimated by a local warlord. This time, they attempt to move northeast to the Great Plain, a much more fertile area with abundantly more resources. On their way, they are intercepted in a pass by the army of Emperor Guangwu of Han, and in turn, meekly surrender. The feared Red Eyebrows, who banded together in 18 AD for the first time, have been the most feared and mighty peasant army in this era of Chinese history, contributed to the downfall of the Qin dynasty, and took control of Chang'an, and are now no more. Emperor Guangwu can rest on his laurels for the time being, but there is still great discontent brewing across China, and quickly, further uprisings in the northern plain begin to pop up as the year ends. We will leave this year, 27 AD, with the collapse of the Fidenae amphitheater, Herod Antipas marrying his niece Herodias, which results in war with the Nabateans, and Emperor Guangwu accepting the surrender of the Red Eyebrows rebels. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to be notified when the next iteration of the yearly histories will be released. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next year in 28 AD to continue the fascinating stories of the world of antiquity and cover its major events.